Thank you, Senator Wyden. Senator Murkowski, it's great to start this new Congress off on this footing and with this important topic. And it's a true pleasure and treat for me to introduce our Governor, John Hickenlooper. I know our other Senator, Michael Bennett, with whom I have a strong working relationship, shares the sentiments I'm going to share with the committee. The Governor brings a great deal of policy expertise to natural gas legislation and the issues that we're discussing here today. And John, I would tell you, in part, you're among friends. There are 4 former governors on the Energy Committee, Senator Alexander, Senator Hoeven, Senator Risch, and Senator Manchin, and I know they share the experiences you've had leading an important state. The governor is a geologist. He worked in the energy industry long before he became Denver's mayor and Colorado's governor. And by the way, I should mention, Mr. Chairman, that the governor was in another energy industry between his days as geologist and a public servant. He started what's now known as the #1 craft brewing industry in the country. Colorado ranks #1 for beer production. We also have a very robust craft brewing sector, if you will, and the governor became a very successful businessman and restaurateur. We are an all-of-the-above energy state. The governor's work is keeping us on the forefront of energy innovation and the creator of energy jobs. And I'm really pleased he's here as he can talk directly and firsthand about the opportunities that we face, but also the lessons from the challenges that are in front of Colorado today. So again, Governor, it's tremendous to have you here. Thank you for taking time from a very busy schedule that you have. I know our legislature is in session. It has 120 days to get up to mischief, as we sometimes do here in the Congress. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here in Washington, D.C. So welcome. Great to see you here.
Senator Udall, thank you. We will not compare Oregon and Colorado now on the brew pub issue. That will be later.
Thank you, Chairman Wyden. And Senator Udall, thank you for your kind introduction. The truth is I refer to myself as a recovering geologist these days. And it is true I went from one fluid to another in my business career. Ranking Member Murkowski, thank you again for your efforts on behalf of energy and this country. And to the rest of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, thank you for allowing us this opportunity. There are 3 interconnected issues right now facing our country. Obviously, the economy is undergoing a steady recovery, but we still have high unemployment. Deficit makes investment difficult. We're vulnerable to shocks from the overseas, and our productivity increases continue to demonstrate there are a lot of people out of work. At the same time, the Persian Gulf is more volatile than ever, and we see our national security 40 years after our first energy crisis. That oil is controlled by unfriendly regimes in many cases, a national security issue that remains. And lastly, that climate change. We've seen some serious drought and wildfires that remind us in Colorado of what the potential threat is from climate change. I'm about to get into the discussion of how fast climate is changing or what the causes are, but I think these 3 issues, the economic recovery and national security and climate, are tough challenges, but the crux of each of them is energy. And we recognize that domestic energy creates jobs, that less foreign imported oil enhances our national security, and that we have a much cleaner energy that will lead to ability to protect our environment. The key, of course, is to thread each of these needles. Energy independence used to be a catchphrase, right, that people would throw around, but I think we are legitimately on the threshold of achieving it for the first time in my lifetime. You know, I studied geology back in the, I'm not trying to date myself, back in the 1970s, when plate tectonics were just being begun to be believed. And yet, what we've seen in the last decade is truly transformational. 2005, 60% of our oil was imported. Last year, 41% was imported. That trend is going to go further. Wind and solar, some of the alternative energies, have added diversity to our energy portfolio. 20 years ago, that was ridiculed, and now we see it in a very real sense. I think our future is more secure with energy that's renewable, that's sustainable. One way that happens is by integrating, as Senator Udall mentioned, a kind of all-of-the-above policy. We see that having cheaper natural gas means that we're more competitive as a country. My friend Mr. Liveris, we all have that challenge. Try having a name like Hickenlooper, Andrew, and you'll see. But we see the chemical industries, the American fertilizer industries, a lot of these associated industries beginning to really take off. Foreign investment in electricity-intensive industries also is coming home for the first time in decades, largely because of inexpensive natural gas. It's also worth pointing out that carbon emissions, because of inexpensive natural gas and the conversion of older, inefficient electrical generation plants fueled by coal, our per capita CO2 emissions are the lowest since Eisenhower turned over the White House to John Kennedy. We are, as a country, even though we didn't ratify the Kyoto protocols, we are halfway towards compliance, and we reduced our carbon emissions in the United States more than all the other signatories to the Kyoto protocols. This really is game-changing. When I was a geologist, this was unheard of. We'd find a big field, and we'd think, well, we're going to adjust how the value of coal, the value of oil, or the value of gas is going to be projected. This has been a technological revolution. And we did fracking when I was a geologist. The first well I sat back in 1981 was we did a hydraulic fracking enterprise on that. What's happened is we've had better technology, the discovery of these tight shale and shale oil deposits. The real transformation here is that we could see a natural gas supply that is legitimately 100 years long, and we continue, as the technology continues to improve, we find more gas at lower costs. At the same time, this has brought exploration to the doorstep of communities that didn't have to deal with it before. And I think the issues around health and safety, of increased drilling, I mean, these are industrial processes, and as they come closer to our schools, our homes and neighborhoods, we really have to take full advantage of the technology by ensuring that we have the absolute strongest safeguards that you could possibly have. And that includes regulations that capture methane emissions, that we reduce flaring of these emissions, make sure that we don't have zero fugitive methane, and that we protect our precious groundwater. We passed a year ago, regulations that required disclosure of the composition of fracking fluids so that we could protect intellectual property, but at the same time reassure the public. We worked with the NRDC, the Environmental Defense Fund, Halliburton, some of the large service companies. At one point in my office, I'm not sure how this happened, but the new frack fluid is made with food additives, and somehow we all took a swig of frack fluid, the new frack fluid, and it was not terribly tasty, but again, I'm still alive to, like Senator Wyden coming back from Alaska, is still alive to tell the story. What we're trying to do is create a national model for how do we regulate gas extraction. We want to make sure we have, anytime we're remotely near neighborhoods, that we have green completions, drilling sites, robust groundwater monitoring. We're making it mandatory for testing both before and after wells are drilled, that we have appropriate setbacks, and that we focus on wellbore integrity to make sure we don't have communication around that well. We're pursuing each of these in Colorado and trying to move aggressively to implement the EPA's greenhouse emissions regulations. Simultaneously, we're engaging our universities in doing the most comprehensive study of air quality around some of these large fields to really be able to give facts instead of estimates around a lot of these issues, but recognizing that we are creating thousands of jobs by having this energy created and extracted at home. We are increasing our national security, and we are dramatically reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I think our focus is to make sure that we continue this momentum, that we seize upon this opportunity in such a way that we can have a regulatory environment that is comprehensive and rigorous, but at the same time allows us to continue these advances. One primary goal throughout this is to make sure that we have sufficient public involvement in the creation of these rules, and having the industry have a voice as well, so that we are in all ways balanced, and that we can be transparent to the level that the public can feel that they are not working against an unseen villain.
Governor, we're at 7 minutes, and I know the senators want to ask you questions.
Sure.
Would you like to maybe wrap up?
Yeah, and I was at that point right
Perfect.
there, just saying that as long as we can maintain and focus on science-based applications and make sure we have the competing interests at the table, I think that we'll be able to continue the pursuit of these innovations.